Good morning from God's long lost Mittenville, Michigan. A little bit of a side note, we are all in the process of recovering from a lovely little bug that made its way through. As you guys know, I mentioned last Tuesday that Miss Monica was out because this nasty little bug got through the entire family. I am the last one still recovering, hence why our videos. Now, granted, it wasn't just the bug. Very randomly, when I thought I was feeling all right, my microphone then, just completely out of left field, just died. We literally sat down to record our video, and I said, hey, my light's not on. Oh, so I was getting a new power cord, got a new power cord, and then, didn't change a thing. So we had to get a new microphone. Everybody got sick, myself included. Still not entirely over it, so, excuse me. There's going to be a good amount of that, a good amount of throat clearing and all that, but the important thing is we're back. It was a crazy end of the week as far as news went, so we will try to tip on some of that as well as what's to come. Ms. Monica, how are you doing today?
Oh, much, much better. Well, I mean, with everything going on, it's a little bit insane. But yes, a little bit of growing pains with having new YouTube channel and new podcasts and everything and building out the website. So obviously microphone fails and family getting sick are one of those things. But I do just want to say before we kick this off and get started that we've got a week or so worth of content. We're going to continue to do so. But if you enjoy what we have to say and you want to hear more, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button, as they say, because that will help us grow.
True.
And help us to continue to do what we're doing. And in that spirit, we will be launching a little bit of Monica here soon.
That's true. We have a bunch of shows in the pipeline. Absolutely.
So if you like coffee or tea, then join us for all of our other stuff that's going on and get engaged and start some conversations. We'd love to hear what your comments are about the articles that we cover and what opinions there are out there that are obviously different than ours.
You would be surprised how satisfying it is just to rant, just to vent about these things, because these problems plague our everyday lives. They plague our families. They plague our past, present, future. They are there. You can't ignore them away. And I'm not saying, a lovely couple venting their frustrations on the internet's going to change the world, but if it makes your day a little better, it's worth it. So, having said that, let's go ahead and just dive right into our first article from our friends at the Daily Caller. So, the reason I wanted to start off with this one, Zelensky warns of, quote, World War III if negotiations with Putin fail. So, as you know, we are not it's blasphemy, but we're not entirely in support of this Ukraine situation when we have so many problems at home. Yes, countries invading other countries are problematic, but at this point, the American people and the, I'll just call them the, quote, ruling class are on separate tiers on this one. It seems like, by and large, we don't have a stake in this, but for some reason, they are pushing it as though the livelihood of our nation depends on Ukraine surviving. And that aside, we're not getting straight news one way or the other, because warns of Third World War if negotiations with Putin fail. Negotiations, which I believe Zelensky even called for and has been engaging in, which is good, of course.
Yes.
But why is it if these negotiations are going on and all things are going to get really bad, every other article I'm looking at is Russian forces obliterated, tanks destroyed, morale down, just propaganda. So at this point, we have to, we have to sort through it. We have to find what is in there and find those little nuggets of truth that hide in all of these articles, because that's all that's in there. Little nuggets of truth. We don't get the full story until, normal. I don't even know if we ever get the full story until a whistle is blown.
I mean, look at anyone who was an active participant in previous wars.
Yeah.
Like everything that happened in Vietnam, everything that happened in Afghanistan. You have
Syria.
Multiple different stories coming out of this.
Yep.
And I mean, everybody pushes their own agenda.
Yeah.
And you try to get people to your side. That's what this is. Everybody's
it's propaganda.
Yeah, it's propaganda. And everybody uses propaganda.
Well, to be fair, everybody uses propaganda. However, it wasn't a staple we had a law against it, the Smith-Mund Act of 1946, 47, I'll look that up. Which was repealed in 2012, which now allows the use of propaganda on American citizens. So I'm not saying it hasn't always been used, because that act was put into place because of how rampant
Well,
World War
I'm talking
II
about
propaganda
more
was.
along the lines of a global perspective.
Oh, I understand that, and I understand what's going on globally, but that's my big problem is globally, yes, it's going to flames, so
we
need to turn
inwards.
Deter that. Yes, we need to turn inwards, and that's a big thing here. So, I tell you what, the rants aside, let's read the news. So, Ukrainian President Zelensky warned that a third world war is likely if peace talks with Russia are unsuccessful. I'll go ahead and say, duh. Quote, I think we have to use any format, any chance in order to have a possibility of negotiation. Possibility of talking to Putin. But if these attempts fail, that would mean that this is a third world war, Zelensky said during an interview with CNN's Fariz CNN. Of course. And that's okay, because the one thing Zelensky has been doing is, I mean, just reminded me of this. You know who we haven't seen? Granted, he just resurfaced, but we haven't seen him in a while. Is St. Fauci? Got to be careful with my Fauci voice. My throat ain't gonna love me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Zelensky is the new Fauci. You notice he's been on a publicity tour. He's been. I even saw him Skype with Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. Now, granted, I believe Mila Kunis is a native of Ukraine. They ran a fundraising effort.
I knew about the fundraising effort. I did not know that she was a native of Ukraine.
I believe I read that in the article. I could be wrong on that. But the point is, they ran a fundraising effort. He FaceTimed with them. We saw him address Congress. We've seen him basically going on a tour. Now, there's speculation that he's not even in the country. And this is crazy. I love this. Somebody looked at a picture of him from his hotel room, and they noticed the prongs on the outlets in the wall didn't match what Ukraine's standard is. It matched what Poland's standard is. I know that look. It's okay. That's why I said
we're going
unverified.
Down the road of the
I haven't gotten to do this.
Look at the way that the birds
Hey, whoa.
Which way the flag is going, and we're tracking
Excuse me.
hiding in a bunker.
This is great. And yes, they will not divide us. I know what you're referencing. I get that reference. Good times. Like I said, we won't go down it. We won't go down that rabbit hole, although it very well could.
And
point is,
honestly,
he's been
whether
everywhere.
He is or he isn't. He is the leader of this opposition force that's coming up against Russia.
Yep.
So, I mean, what he's putting out is him garnering support for his cause, which we are more in line with his perspective than we are Vladimir Putin's.
Well, of course, we don't get Vladimir Putin's.
No, we don't.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, they have literally cut off everything. Like, everything. And I understand you got to be hard in this situation, but ask yourself this question. If China invaded Taiwan, which is very much a possibility that this whole conflict will determine whether or not it's going to be, how swift it's going to be, at least I believe, would the reaction be the same? We've seen shameless pandering to China, whereas Russia has been the media's boogeyman for the last the last 6 to 7 years minimum, but of course, looking by and large, the last 50 years Russia's been the boogeyman of us. So you really have to look at, if China did that, exact same thing. We believe this territory is ours. We're reclaiming it. Don't stand in our way. Would we completely cut off China from everything? Would we ban all of their outlets? Anyone with any, to insane degrees.
Like to think that we would.
No, you and I would like to think that we would.
No. The United States populace as a whole. Even the people who are running these campaigns and the politicians who are in place, I do believe that a lot of them would like to think that if they saw a big bad, something that was opposition for them, right, that they would stand their ground.
Yeah.
I don't think that a lot of them are realistic about how interconnected all of these countries truly are. Globalization is a thing for a reason.
Yeah.
And they pushed us into this because for an idea, it's great. Everyone on the planet has this enhanced standard of living. Everyone on the planet has enhanced healthcare. We all drive technology not through competition, but through working together. But
are you describing socialism?
Well,
the idea, yes. The real socialism has never been tried.
It's a great thing to feel like, yes, that sounds
I was going to say, I've heard this before. Where have I heard this
Christmas
before?
Land.
Magical Christmas Land.
Amazing.
Magical Christmas Land.
But, and I was watching an article with Ben Shapiro talking about the interest rates, inflations, and all that. And the thing is, and he even says, I'm more concerned about the stagnation in innovation. Because if you're not competing, if you're not trying to beat someone, there's no reason to get better.
True.
Even if you're trying to beat yourself.
Yes.
You're doing it because there's a standard there that you want to get better at, that you want to improve upon. And, I mean, go Zelensky for getting stuff out there and to try and innovate and try and, from a politician's standpoint.
Okay.
He's playing the out in front of the media very, very well. No matter what's going on, no matter what you believe.
Yes, I will agree that Zelensky and the West are winning what is known as the culture war.
Yes.
But when you cut off the other person entirely from the world stage and go, this guy's doing great on the world stage, well, duh, you didn't let the other guy in. So I get what you're saying, and while that is important, that really does cross that line of at what point is it propaganda?
Yes.
And that's the problem we run into. Now, continuing with this, Zelensky said the war is unlikely to end without negotiations. Quote, I am ready for negotiations with him, of course, being Putin. I was ready over the last 2 years, and I think that without negotiations, we cannot end this war. Which, again, if all we're hearing is how terrible Russia is doing, and yet all we see with updates are they've advanced, they're coming from different places, they got here, we're not getting told the truth. And when he comes out and says, you know, I'm ready for negotiations and all this, it's like, I feel like that would have been the first priority.
Well, and here's the bigger thing. Look at the way that they word that.
Yeah.
Like the way that I was ready over the last
2 years. Yeah.
So why was this not on most Americans' scope before this? Like why did this tension and this conflict not become something that we were publicly aware of? Because 2 years ago, if you had asked the average American where Ukraine was, do you think they know?
I think if you ask today's average American, anyone who supports this, the first thing I would say is, can you show me on a map where Ukraine is? A map, not a Google map. Can you show me? Can I pull out a globe and you can say there's Ukraine? Or can you describe where it is in relation to Eastern Europe? And I guarantee you, 99% of the people who claim to support this can't do it.
Well, because everybody wants to be the hero, and we don't want to feel like, I mean, there's footage coming out now, which horrible footage of things going on.
Again, I would take everything with a grain of salt.
I do take everything
because
with a grain
a
of
lot
salt.
of the footage we've seen, and we've seen a lot, I'm not discounting what you're referencing, but we've already seen so much of it get disproven as being either fake or old or reused to the point where you have to start to question the legitimacy of all of it. Sorry, go on.
But at the same time, so you have to question the validity of everything, but at the same time, these are I'm talking about the emotional reaction to this type of footage. When it comes out and somebody tells you this is going on, no matter if you believe it right off the bat or not, you have an innate emotional reaction to the thought of children being blown up.
Well, of course, that's what they want you to think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, he's doing a very good job of pushing this back in memory, and the way that they phrase that, I was ready over the last 2 years.
Yep. Like as though he's going to say, like, you know, I've been trying this and trying it.
Yes,
And
as if they've been under fire. I've just constantly been attacked. And to what extent is that true? And if that's true, well, then what escalated it now?
Yep. See, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. I mean, 2 years ago, if this really had happened, which of course we know it only happened in the last month, what would the reaction have been under a Trump presidency? Well, there's a lot of speculation right now, and unfortunately, we're already into it, so I won't pull it up now, but a lot of people have started asking, like, truth be told, why didn't he do this 2 years ago? And the answer is pretty obvious. We were in a state of strength. Putin wasn't going to make the move until he knew, and we have some more into that. And now, when you were talking about Zelensky, I want you to hold that thought about who he is as a person, because we will get to the next article, and the next article is a little damning for that, but we're going to come back to this for a second. He says, quote, there are compromises for which we cannot be ready as an independent state. Any compromises related to our territorial integrity and our sovereignty, close enough, and the Ukrainian people have spoken of sovereignty. There you go. Yeah, man. And the Ukrainian people have spoken about it. They have not greeted Russian soldiers with a bunch of flowers. They have greeted them with bravery. They have greeted them with weapons in their hands. God. I'm just going to take a moment. Don't you love the Second Amendment? Don't you love it? Just to say that, just in case anyone out there goes, why would they put that in there?
I still love that my dad sent us that tweet that said that people willing to hand out guns in Ukraine are the same ones trying to take yours, which at this point, if you look at the voting records, is very much true.
Of course.
Everyone's stepping forward saying, yes, let's send the MiGs. Let's send everything that we have. Let's hand out guns to whoever wants to fight over there. I mean, no background checks, no anything. You go.
Just as the Founding Fathers intended. Yeah, once this does eventually end one way or the other, and they have to turn their gaze back inward, their heads are just going to explode. Because they're literally saying, protect your borders, protect your people and your culture, and use force and guns in the hands of anyone you can put it in to do so. Literally the principles upon which this country was founded.
Well, it's because they don't see that what they're doing is corrupting essentially what has been the United States and bringing in other ideologies, whereas they see Ukraine as losing its core values. Mm-hmm. They don't see the United States losing its core values, and a lot of the conservatives see the United States losing its core values.
Yeah, well, it is, and by and large, it is, and we have some cultural issues to get to here shortly. But I will say this: you know what? No, I won't say it. I'm going to go ahead and continue reading. Quote, I'd like to receive security guarantees for my country, for my people, if NATO members are ready to see us in the alliance, which, again, keep in mind, Ukraine is not a part of NATO, despite what the vice president says.
And also keep in mind, so he mentioned being at war with Russia for 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
It takes, on average, about 2 years for someone to be accepted into NATO. The process starts, and it takes about 2 years for it to finish.
So you think we're on the brink of it happening?
And so far, from what I've looked into, you cannot be accepted into NATO if you are currently in an active war.
Interesting. I did not know that. Yeah, so you can't use it as like a please come help me.
Exactly. You have to be a part of an alliance for you to lean on that alliance. You can't lean on the alliance and then say, yes, I want to be a part of it.
Funny story with that. This is just a side rant here. NATO, no one gives him credit, or at least I should say the mainstream media does not give President Trump credit for literally marching in there and saying, y'all aren't paying your share and we're tired of footing the bill. The reason NATO has power now, at least to the extent that they do, is because Donald Trump went in there and said, we're not going to be your piggy bank, pay your bills, and a lot of countries did. Just going to throw that one out there. But anyways, continuing this, if NATO members are ready to see us in the alliance, then do it immediately because people are dying on a daily basis. Now, you say the appeal to emotion is strong, and it's not stronger than right there, but isn't that amazing that he says, then do it immediately? Despite the fact that, as you just pointed out, and I didn't know that would literally violate their own rules.
Yeah, from everything that I've read, and honestly, anybody in the comments correct me if
Absolutely.
I'm wrong.
Yep.
But from what I've read, you cannot be actively engaged in war when joining the alliance, and it takes roughly 2 years to complete everything, which makes sense.
Yep.
There's a lot of logistics around countries deciding that they're going to work closely together.
Yeah.
And that's why so many of them have fallen apart. And NATO learned from a lot of the things in the past to build a strong alliance between these countries, because it's basically an agreement that none of them are going to go rogue.
No, I agree. And it's interesting that he, even going back to the title of this article, Zelensky warns of Third World War if negotiations with Putin fail. If negotiations with Putin fail at this point, theoretically, why would there be cause for a Third World War? They are not a part of NATO. And if they lose, and if Russia reclaims that territory, yes, people are going to be upset. Yes, sanctions are going to occur. These things are going to happen. But would it result in a Third World War? I feel as though this guy, and unfortunately, our ruling class is backing him, along with ruling classes across the country, but particularly important that ours are, is basically saying, even though my country is in this war, if I lose this, you all will be involved.
And that's so it just makes you go, okay, what promises have leaders already made to him to make him feel like he can say that?
Exactly. I mean, he could just be blowing smoke, but at the same time, now, I'm going to, unless you have anything else, I'm going to hop to that next article.
Next one.
Yeah, no, that's okay, because the reason I highlight this is This is from Breitbart. Zelensky uses martial law to ban main opposition party and crack down on, quote, division. So while we are here talking about the character of Mr. Zelensky, we instead of looking at his words, let's look at his actions. And what do his actions tell us? Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky has announced the banning of Ukraine's main opposition party and 10 others as part of an anti-Russian crackdown. The opposition platform, For Life, Left Opposition, Progressive Socialist Party of Ukraine, Socialist Party of Ukraine, Socialist Union, blah, 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 have all been banned by decree, right there, by decree, amid the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine for at least, quote, the period of the martial law. What do we see happen in these situations? You give this person emergency powers, and if this sounds familiar, you might be a little worried. You give these people emergency powers, and the first thing that they do is go after their opposition. They completely remove, dethrone, defame, and completely get rid of anyone who's going to tell them no, under the guise of anti-Russian. It's very reminiscent of, well, a lot of things, but most recently, January 6th committee. Before I go on reading, do you have any input there?
Well,
you look like you were going to say something.
It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, this idea that you can shut down an idea.
Anyone who disagrees with
is
you.
damaging.
Yep. I agree.
And the thought that, like...
it's fascistic. I mean, plain and simple.
I'm trying to think of who it was that was having the conversation. I watched a video.
Oh.
There was a professor who actually studied Putin's behavior in particular.
Oh, sure.
You know, had been studying him over the years and was teaching different things. And they kind of shut him down and said, you're a sympathizer.
Yeah, isn't that great?
There's something different about understanding your enemy. You know, it will come down to the people who understand their enemy are the ones who will win, not necessarily the ones who just shut down and try to squash their enemy.
Yep.
But you have to get rid of the idea, the movement, the culture behind someone's actions before you just get rid of that person. Otherwise, you create martyrs.
Yeah,
you know,
I was going to say, he has not heard of the Streisand effect.
Yes. And this sounds like he's heading down that rabbit hole of making more enemies for himself by trying to shut down these people.
Well, it's very interesting because in addition to January 6th, I was actually just thinking, as you were describing that, I was saying, who else does this remind me of? Of course, Prime Minister Blackface himself, who just executed Canadian emergency powers to completely quash the trucker convoy, including trampling his own citizens. Of course, you know, with Ukraine going on, that got swept under the rug, but there's a pattern here.
For Americans, that might have gotten swept under the rug.
True, for most.
In Canada, it's still a big,
I mean, I would hope so.
Internal struggle.
I mean, when you see videos of Mounties trampling old ladies on their horses, it's like, I would hope there'd be an outroar about that. You know, I'd hope something would happen. But anyways, back to the article. I just really wanted to reference the fact that is still happening, and this all coming on really feels like just a great diversion, which of course it is. Whether or not it's intentional or not, that's a story for another day. Because if you think about it, prior to Ukraine invading, what was going on? Protests in Canada, as I recall, Hillary Clinton had been officially. The Durham report had officially said that she not only spied on Trump leading up to, but after he was in the White House. Like, all these things were going on, and then suddenly war in Ukraine. And now they're all gone. I mean, I had to search to find anything in the news cycle from any of this stuff because, of course, everybody's talking about Ukraine. But continuing on, the foremost victim of the crackdown is the opposition platform, For Life, which, as of the 2019 general election, was the second most popular political party in Ukraine after Zelensky's own Servant of the People party, named after the television show excuse me, of the same name, which starred Zelensky as an ordinary man who became president. It's an interesting theory. You know about this guy, right? He's literally an actor, and he did this show about a regular guy who became a president, kind of like that Robin Williams movie, Man of the Year. Mm-hmm. And supposedly the people liked him so much they voted him in, which I thought Hollywood culture was bad here, but oh my God. Although,
well, I mean, we've talked about that before. The difference between an actor and a politician is normally who spends the most time in front of the camera.
I mean, if you were sitting there looking at Joe Biden or Martin Sheen from The West Wing, you'd be like, you know what? I like Martin Sheen more. He's got better writers.
And really, like, it's the face that you put on in front of people to get the vote. And we have to stop allowing politicians to be that.
No, it's never going
They
to stop.
have to be in it for what they truly believe in. They can't just be mouthing these words to us and people just accept it.
Yeah. The
But
two...
again,
Oh, go ahead.
So Zelensky in this particular instance is doing exactly what he's learned to do from the American politics.
Yes.
We try to deplatform and get rid of anyone who is opposition
That
to
is
our
not
party.
true, unless you're talking about the party that is in power right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
Because you and we don't want to deplatform people. In fact, we want them to have a platform, because otherwise you won't know what it is they're saying. People have to be able to say things, even if they're crazy. That's why the First Amendment is so important. You may think hate speech is real, but it's not. All it does is let you know, I don't like that dude. I don't really want to hear what he has to say, so I'm going to walk this way. If you didn't know, you'd be curious.
Well, and people have to stop being so, like, just jumping on the idea that somebody says one thing and you hate them for that soundbite.
Yeah.
Get to know them for more than just that one conversation, like that one line of dialogue that you might have thought that they said.
Oh, I don't know, man. Sheeple gonna sheeple. Although, thinking about the whole celebrity versus politician thing, I can think of two instances in our country's history, off the top of my head, granted, there's probably a ton more, where that line was kind of crossed, outside of Donald Trump, because that's too easy. Actual politicians, of course, John F. Kennedy. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I think the big issue, Barack Obama. There's a reason why people don't really know, or at least those who didn't pay attention don't know how terrible that guy really was with the drone strikes and everything like that, is because the media painted him and he ran. I mean, the guy ran a very smooth public relations. Like he was basically like the hero president that everybody loved, even though behind the scenes he was absolute trash.
Well, we fall into a habit of automatically thinking that we like someone
Idealizing.
based. Yeah. Don't ever meet your heroes.
No.
They inevitably will let you down.
No, that's just it. You always got to remember who you think is your hero and who that person is. Like, it's like being able to separate the artist from the art.
Yes.
You know, like just
Which
because
is
I
a
love
very,
this.
very big thing.
Yeah, like I obviously love Star Wars, but I love Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill, I like the guy, but man, he's a little crazy.
Yeah, like you have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't believe that I would agree with you on that. Obviously, never met him aside from
Nope.
the tweets and all of the randomness that I see go out there. So I'm basing it off of his public image. He might very well be a down-to-earth guy who does that just for the attention. But yeah, no, I don't.
So I just listen to this quote from the article. The activities of those politicians aimed at division or collusion will not succeed, but will receive a harsh response, President Zelensky has reported as saying. Just that statement alone, the activities of those politicians aimed at division or collusion will not succeed, but will receive a harsh response. Basically, I mean, do you find that a bit contradictory that he's saying they're going to cause division, so I'm going to cut them out of the picture?
I do.
It's insane, isn't it?
It's the idea that I can beat you into submission and make you believe what I believe, which is not the way to make people believe what you believe. By education, by informing, by allowing them to make the decision to believe what you believe is how you win people over to your cause. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference between the two sides, I think, when it boils down to it.
Okay, scrolling down a little bit. Zelensky also banned 3 news channels associated with, I'm not even going to try that one, and reportedly targeted his family and colleagues. The current government previously put Platform for Life party leader Viktor Medvedchuk under house arrest in May 2021 over accusations that he committed high treason. There's a word we're starting to see pop up more and more the last year. So the very fact that he took Medvedchuk, targeted his family and colleagues, it says, with the help of legal instruments, Medvedchuk was deprived of the opportunity to use the media and state property to openly attack the country and cause ruinous damage to state security, Zelensky said by way of justification for his actions. Yeah. I had to cut him off. I had to attack him. I had to attack his family, his friends, and I had to remove him because I had to stop him from doing bad things. This is fascistic. And if these are the behaviors of the guy that our government is choosing to send money for and support, you really have to wonder, what is Putin really doing that is that much worse that they're giving this guy the stage.
See, here's the thing. So that one's a hard one because it says handing over military secrets to Russia. If someone is doing that to your country, you charge them with high treason.
You would think. I mean,
if that's truly what's going
Representative Eric Swalwell has been sleeping with a Chinese spy for the last X number of years.
Well, I was just going to say,
Adam
we
Schiff.
need to solve that
Yeah.
issue at home
I was gonna
before
say,
we address that in
right there.
other countries.
Yep.
So
It's hypocrisy.
that's Ukraine's way. He's going to shut him down. That's what he's going to do. Just like we're not going to step into China and say, no, you have to allow all of these broadcasts. Yep. We're not here to be a Team America World Police.
True.
We're
not going to step into China and say, hey, close those concentration camps full of Uyghur Muslims. No, we're going to thank them in Disney credits. Sorry, go on.
Okay, that's the difference between a company and a country, though.
That's true.
Disney does their own thing because they are a company and we do not own them as a country.
Oh, good.
But looking at this, handing over military secrets to Russia, we as Americans should not be involved in that. This is where we go wrong. This is where we step into countries and put people in place with what we believe is a powerful government, is a strong government who's going to uphold what we believe.
This is what we did with him.
Exactly.
Yeah, like 2014 we did this.
We need to take a step back and say, you know what? Mind our own damn business.
I guess I should say we put things into place that led to him. Sorry.
Well, we need to start minding our own business with certain
You
things.
would think. Granted, especially when it comes to Ukraine, it's very difficult to mind your own business when so much of our government has so much vested interest.
Well, and at this point, we're really at the point where we have to be engaged because we've already committed ourselves so much. We're going to give them more military aid, which is going to end up with us putting boots on the ground, which is going to end up with the United States having a presence right on Russia's border. And that, I mean, I can see why you would say that this is going to lead to
World War III. Will lead to World War III, yes.
We're on the path.
Ugh.
We have to take a hard veer away from that, and at this point, I don't know how we do that.
I mean, we got to clean out the rot of the system. That's it. Our system needs to be cleaned out. But let's go ahead. Let's hop on. So, interestingly enough, while we're talking about our position in this, excuse me, the next article actually kind of shows a little glimpse into how the opposition is viewing our brave leader. From Breitbart, Kremlin takes jab at Biden's, quote, irritability, fatigue, and forgetfulness. Oh, Sleepy Joe's, his reputation's growing. I mean, it's you'd have to be blind not to see that this guy is not there.
Well, and his polling numbers even show that.
Yes, his polling numbers are in the gutter. Democrats are losing their minds over 2022.
They let him out of the basement, and people are starting to realize, oh, crap, this is not the guy that was VP for Obama.
Of course not. I mean, he didn't even campaign. He had his 10 a.m. caps, and then the media just spun.
Yes.
Spun.
Yes, and this is what happens when you have companies pushing their own agenda and contributing to campaigns and putting someone in office, no matter what you believe about what went on. Again, there's a whole background to why people vote the way they do, and a big part of that is your dollar.
Yep.
And where that dollar goes to fund certain people and ad campaigns, and the media is
Operation Mockingbird.
the media is funded through these same types of channels.
Oh, no, I understand.
So they're going to let you see what they want you to see. There's a reason that certain ads pop up on Fox News.
Oh, of course,
and
of
certain
course.
ads pop up on CNN. But we're driving ourselves towards a civil war, and we're driving ourselves towards separate economies.
No. We're not driving ourselves. We are being driven.
No, we are driving ourselves as an American people, as a whole.
At
we
this
have to
point,
stop
maybe.
looking at it as the divide and look at it as the whole and saying we are ripping each other apart.
True. But it is being pushed. I will say that.
It is. Yes. It is. And a lot of that is the perception. And they put Biden in office to do what? To stand around and mumble some things and to get angry about stuff? Of course he looks like a dementia-ridden buffoon.
That's what he is.
Because that's what he is.
Yeah.
It's horrible. But everything that we see, and even when they try to cover it up, if you watch live footage, and that's where you really see it.
Oh, it's the worst.
You have to watch the live footage of him, like we did with the State of the Union address.
God, that was agony. Although the drinking game, oh boy, that was... I haven't had a drinking game that intense since the Star Wars one a couple years ago, where it was like every time you'd hear the word Force, Jedi, or First Order when we were watching the sequels, you had to take a shot. Oh man, it was like 10 minutes into that movie, I was just gone. Anyways,
we couldn't really finish the movie.
Yeah, if you ever, for some reason, if you haven't seen, just watch a clip of Joe Biden at a press conference, and then find another article where they talk about it. And yes, they will literally. I mean, even with even with President Trump, they would always put ellipses. They'd put all these things here showing his gaffes or his pauses or anything. Whereas Biden, you would think he was just a silver-tongued devil who could say no wrong, and he had always had powerful speeches and blah 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 because they cover for him.
Well, because we want to protect the uranium people.
The uranium people? You mean Hillary Clinton who sold uranium to Russia? Secretary of State.
Down the rabbit hole.
That's not down the rabbit hole. That's a matter of fact. Dude, they have been in the bed with Putin for so long now that I honestly wonder how much of this even matters, or if it is just a distraction. That is tinfoil hat territory, but it's also a matter of fact. How much of our uranium was sold to Vladimir Putin by Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State? I believe it was a quarter. 25%.
So going on past Biden being cognitively impaired, moving on to what's going on in the background with his family.
Mm-hmm. Well, hold on a second. I do want to say this quote. Okay. From the article, we do hear and see statements addressed to President Putin that in fact constitute a personal insult, said Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov in response to President Biden branding the Russian leader a, quote, murderous dictator, a pure thug, waging an immoral war against the people of Ukraine. Bearing in mind Mr. Biden's irritability, fatigue, and forgetfulness, which eventually results in aggressive statements, we will possibly prefer to refrain from making any strong comments so as not to trigger more aggression. Yes, no, we're hopping on, but I mean, everyone has noticed. The way you
treat anybody who has dementia. When they start to act like that, when they start to snap because they're not understanding the world that's in front of them, you back off.
You're supposed to. Not put them on the friggin' world stage and tell them they're responsible for everything that's going on in our country.
That's essentially Russia saying, you know what? You go ahead and you throw your little fit and you have your anger and your aggression issues. We're not going to engage with that. We have things to deal with.
Yeah, and that they do. So, one big thing that happened last week that I really was looking forward to talking to is, I guess I should say, as a preface, this did not happen last week. This happened during the election cycle. It was the October surprise in the 2020 election when Hunter Biden, the pathetic crackhead son of Joe Biden, who was on the board of Burisma getting paid ridiculous amounts of money, not to mention 10% for the big guy, left his laptop at a computer repair shop after the statute of, not the statute of limitations, but the, excuse me, the grace period for the pawn shop had expired, where then it is considered his property. He decided, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? I guess I'll look at it. And what he found on it was disturbing, to say the least. I can't go into too much detail, and even though I would advise you to look into it, the important things, not counting any of the sick stuff that was on there, the important things were emails from Hunter Biden tagging Joe Biden, talking about business deals, basically implicating them. Because if you didn't know, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, despite his adamant denials, shared bank accounts, did deals together. Obviously, Hunter Biden flaunted the fact that his dad was the vice president. He got repayment-free loans of millions of dollars from China, bought and paid for. He was on this Burisma board. Insane levels of corruption, all on this laptop. So the owner tries to give it to the FBI. They have no interest in it. So then what happens, of course, if you know, he gives it to Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani and President Trump start looking into this. And even prior to that, President Trump had seen the video of Joe Biden talking about how he got the prosecutor who was looking into Burisma fired by threatening to withhold $1 billion of aid. Very famous video. So President Trump called, said, he talked to Zelensky. He said, "Hey, what's going on with this video? What's this mean?" And of course, they impeach President Trump over it and take Mr. Corrupt and put him in here. But back to the important bits. Last week, everybody else had to admit and eat crow that, yes, that laptop is actually real, despite the fact that throughout the entire election, we called it Russian disinformation. Biden himself, when Trump confronted him on stage, said, "That's Russian nonsense. It meant nothing." Blatant lies across the board. Twitter suppressed every article. Facebook banned you if you did it. Across the board, this was called Russian disinformation. Well, newsflash, it was real. And the implications of this are, damning doesn't begin to do it justice. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not even going into the just sick stuff that Hunter had on there. We're only talking business and presidential related, because the rest of that stuff, this guy should be behind bars forever. Chris Hansen would have puked if he saw this stuff.
And here's the thing. So, obviously, I haven't seen what was on the laptop.
Oh, God.
I don't want to see what's on the laptop.
No, you don't.
I want to trust that it's being handled, but at this point, we can't.
Nope. We already know the FBI didn't care. We already know the FBI is covering for him. But listen to this. From the article, a member of ex-intelligence officials who reviewed Hunter Biden's laptop in the lead up to the 2020 presidential election and dismissed its authenticity as, quote, Russian information, have declined to comment and apologize to the New York Post. The New York Post was the only paper that actually ran it. They ran a front page thing about it, and of course, they were demonized, they were banned, they were yada, 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 yada.
Yeah, I remember, because when it first popped up, you and I went to put it up on Facebook.
Yep.
And it blocked our post.
Yep, flagged it, blocked it, said nope.
You were not allowed to link back to the New York Post article.
Yeah, you couldn't even direct message it.
Yep.
They removed anything.
Which is crazy to think that these platforms, you've allowed them into your private messages so that they can just start banning things.
Yeah, anyone who trusts Mark Zuckerberg gets what they deserve. It says that initial evaluation of as many as 51 former intelligence officials has depreciated remarkably over the past 2 years. After adamant assertions, requests for comment from the New York Post have been met with radio silence. Now that those claims have been shown, come on, post-millennial, to be a little more than unfounded opinions. And you can see here's the cover of the New York Post, Spies Who Lie, with all these individuals, including the absolutely corrupt pieces of crap, John Brennan and James Clapper. These people blatantly lie to Congress. They blatantly lie to the media. They blatantly lie to the American people nonstop. Will we ever see repercussions? I don't know. But the important part is it is now mainstream. There was hold on. Let me just finish this last little thing. There was a poll conducted that if this had been allowed to be shared, what percentage of Biden voters would have immediately changed. And I think it was, even though it was a biased poll, like 15%. But that's the election. Yeah. 15% swing. That's the election. I'm sorry, go on.
No, you're absolutely right. And here's the thing, it's not that we weren't allowing them to say that this is fake and that this is Russian disinformation, because from their campaign, from their perspective, they are allowed to twist it however they want. It is on you as the listener, as the voter, to be informed, to check your sources, to see what their history is behind things and where they got them. Find a source that you can trust before just going through and believing it. So take everything with a grain of salt. But the bigger issue is that they shut down. Like the same thing that we were talking about with Zelensky.
Yep.
He can have his opinion, and these people can have their opinion.
Everyone's entitled.
But when you start to shut down someone's ability to talk about their opinion, it means that you're scared.
Oh, and what is that famous quote? Cut out a man's tongue. You're not proving him a liar. You're only proving to the world that you're scared of what he might say.
And that's exactly it.
Yep.
And when you're scared of what someone might say, it's because there's something true to it. And even if it's not completely true, there's something there that makes you shake in your boots and say, you know what? No. Don't even mention it out loud. It can't possibly be XYZ, because you're hiding something.
Yep. Don't even say it. Don't even reference it.
Yep.
So social media giants like Facebook and Twitter implemented measures to prevent the story from spreading. In the latter's case, under CEO Jack Dorsey's reign, going so far as to ban the New York Post account from its big tech platform. These are just garbage.
I'm looking forward to more platforms that stop this type of behavior.
I know. The balkanization is here.
Well, and people are starting to step away from them. I mean, if you see all of the stuff on Twitter, sometimes...
Well, I mean, Twitter's a cesspool, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but
that's why we go to Gab and all these other places.
Exactly, and look at the way that people turned from these platforms after they started to see all of the fact-checking and shadow banning and all this other crap. Like, people are opening their eyes to that. And like we said, stepping away, which means they're taking their dollars with them. Because when it comes down to it, these platforms and these places only make money because of the advertisers.
True.
And the advertisers aren't going to make any money if you don't have anybody reading your stuff.
True. Very true.
So step away from Facebook, step away from Twitter, step away from all of that. If you can, like...
That's not the real world.
Yes.
Despite what they want you to believe. That is. Twitter represents, like, I think last I saw it was like 3% of the population of this country or something crazy like that.
Which is hard for me to say because we're on those platforms.
Well, it's a necessary evil. We are minimal.
And we do. Yeah. And we step away from it. Because there are times when you and I will be hanging out and we'll be going through all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, enough. I can't go through the rabbit hole anymore. I need to take a step back. We need to get outside. We need to get in the yard. We need to
let's go get some sun. Get some air. No, absolutely. And I mean, I do have a little follow-up here, which was just, again, just reinforcing it. Again, from the Post-Millennial, prominent MSNBC producers spread misinformation to cover for Hunter Biden. Quote, the Trump campaign claims Facebook is, quote, censoring journalism because Facebook plans to limit the spread of the New York Post report. That is not censorship. Facebook is under no obligation to allow a disputed report that appears to contain disinformation to spread on their platform. Section 230 needs to be revisited. This is why. Because it is not, they are only granted immunity when they do not show bias and do not remove. It has to be a public platform. And when they immediately show that bias, and I'm granted, it's nothing new. We know that they hate conservatives. We know they want to live in their liberal bubbles. But in this case, it affected an election. And the worst part is we were essentially warned because Zuckerberg himself, who we'll get into this another day, but he's getting repercussions for his quote-unquote donations to the 2020 election in certain precincts. He has openly bragged about how his platform can affect elections and alter them. And now at this point, I mean, we're beyond needing to cull it. Like, we are beyond it. So I'm not going to go too much into this one. I really just wanted to show that not only has this been going on and have they been actively working to suppress it, but it's coming back to bite. And you mentioned that they are losing ground in the in the culture war here on the home front. And I mean, I can't think of any better example than CNN losing 90% of its viewers and then being engulfed in scandal, having to fire a bunch of people.
Yes, and then you turn around and you look at where the government subsidies are going to these failing outlets and the things that people... Okay, well, if I choose to not spend my money at a company like that and to not spend my time looking over things so they can earn ad revenue, what makes you think I want my tax dollars to go to support
They don't care what we want, tax dollars. It's their money.
They don't care, but at the same time, they better, because you can only run on that system for so long before the people who are paying in go, wait.
I don't know.
You taking my money isn't worth it. I'm going to run for office.
That's true.
I'm going to stand up and I'm going to change. And that's where we're starting to see more people come out who are not career politicians.
No. Populists.
Who are not. I mean, they want to do what's best for their communities. And they might have taken some time to get themselves straight, but
that's okay.
Like, that's exactly what we need is the person who kind of
we just need
focused in
populists.
On themselves, got their life under control, and then says, you know what, I can help my neighbor, I can help my community, and branches out from there.
Sound like you're talking about Mike Lindell. They canceled the crap out of the MyPillow guy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, essentially...
I know the name.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, essentially, you're describing him, drug addict, got his life together, started a business, now he's successful in trying to help people, literally, like, doesn't care about his money or the cancel culture that they keep trying to hit him with.
Yeah, whereas looking at the story on Hunter Biden, obviously... there's something wrong in the family.
Yeah.
If someone develops that type of problem.
We won't go into it, but Project Veritas had that diary.
The
diary. It's, again, they couldn't verify the authenticity, which is why they didn't run the story. But of course, the FBI still raided them, which is, I mean, that's a whole nother story. But the point is, just like the Hunter Biden laptop, there was information in that diary that you look at that and you're like, that is just sick.
Well, we have to start looking at these politicians and say, okay, what have you done in your life, including raising your children, and how they ended up?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, we know Joe Biden's done nothing because he's been in office since what, the 70s?
And that's scary to think that we've elected someone into the presidency who couldn't even...
Who you lost me at we elected.
Well, sore subject. You're allowed to feel however you want to feel about the previous elections, no matter what's been legal, illegal, conspiracy, whatever.
Yeah, I know. I'm not allowed to go into that yet. I got to wait for it to be on the front page.
Let's not talk about the presidency with that. Let's just say we have someone who represents at least part of the American people who does not have a fully functioning family.
Right.
Bring it back home. Help your son before you decide to go tell the rest of us how to raise our kids.
Yeah. It's kind of like when they said that they were going to start, which I believe they are, having the IRS monitor bank accounts and certain transaction limits. It's like, hey, bro, you're $30 trillion in debt. I don't think you have any business telling me how to spend my money. But anyways, I'm going to hop really quick because it did. Elect local.
Vote for
Yes.
people that you know.
Primary these people.
Yes.
We have to start at the root. We have to start at the bottom, and we have to just cleanse it from the bottom up.
Well, because we have to work within the system that we have.
Yes. That was the one thing that I both was so frustrating with President Trump was he followed the rules. He followed the rules. He had to go through, like, if one of these activist judges challenged any of his anything he did, he always waited. He waited for it to go to the Supreme Court to get clearance. It's like you have to show the system works, as frustratingly slow as it is, because you know that the other side doesn't care. They'll just write off a million decrees and say everybody needs to get the shot. Well, did you vote? Did we vote on that? Is that law? Nope. Why is that a thing? You cannot rule by decree, especially not in this country. We don't have. The last time a dictator tried to tell us what to do, we shoved 1,000 guns up his. The point is, from New York Post, White House ignores its Hunter problem. So it did actually get back to Jen Psaki and all that good stuff, which is just.
Yeah. Did you see them ask about it?
I did.
It was pretty funny.
Oh, here it is right here. So she refused. Jen Psaki refused to answer the Post White House reporter Steve Nelson when he had the rare opportunity to ask her two of those questions last week about Hunter Biden and whether or not the laptop, why they blah blah blah. So Psaki's excuse was that Hunter Biden, quote, doesn't work in the government.
Yes.
He doesn't work in the government, and I represent the government, so I'm not interested. But she wasn't being asked about Hunter. She was being asked about her boss, the president. Mm-hmm. Quote, how is President Biden navigating conflicts of interest when it comes to sanctioning people who have done business with his family? What would be his conflicts of interest? She replied to his question. Well, just for starters, Russian oligarch Yelena Baturina, who paid $3.5 million into a bank account associated with Hunter and his business partner Devon Archer, was not sanctioned with other oligarchs. Thank you, allied with President Vladimir Putin this month.
Oligarchs.
Yeah, I've heard it both ways.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure you have.
Was it an oversight? A favor? It's a serious question that deserves a serious answer. Baturina wired $3.5 million on February 14, 2014, to Rosemont Seneca Thornton, a consortium firm between there it is. The firm co-founded by Hunter, Archer, and Chris Hines at the Thornton Group. That's what I'm saying.
So they want to monitor your $500.
They want to monitor my $500, but they don't care. In fact,
$3.5 million.
$3.5 million.
They don't want to discuss.
Nope. It says Baturina's wires were flagged in quote suspicious activity reports provided by. Sorry, that picture of Hunter. Provided by the Treasury Department to a Senate Republican inquiry by the Finance and Homeland Security, blah, blah, blah. Hunter's lawyer has denied Hunter profited from the transaction, telling CNN the claim that he was paid $3.5 million is false.
So he didn't receive all $3.5
I was going to say 10% for the big guy. From the emails, who's the big guy, you ask? Well, Hunter Biden posing for the camera. God, seriously, don't.
I have a hard time with this.
Do not. I want to say do not look into what is on that laptop, because when I say it is sick, I can't even begin to scratch the surface of it. We don't need to go into this anymore. The problem is, like they said, it's not about Hunter Biden. It's about Joe Biden. It's about the fact that they shared the account, the fact that he was seemingly on paper and an email a part of literally everything that happened. 10% for the big guy. We know these things happen. They're living in a fantasy world where they're just going to try to deny it away, which to me is the sickest form of corruption you could have.
Well, and so even in the most outlandish of he's not really connected and this is all, there's still corruption there.
Monster amounts.
There's still issues with tracking things and making sure that everything was in line.
Yep.
That are not being answered directly. And when it comes down to it, like I said, this is your son. We don't always know what our kids get up to, but you know.
Exactly.
You are a parent and you know.
It's your job to know.
And if you cannot get that relationship under control, why are we allowing you to lead the country? Yep.
It's crazy. It's just insane. It really is. But okay. So Hunter Biden. Yeah. Are we all done with that? Because honestly, the more we could go into it more, but I mean, I can't stress this enough. I have seen just a glimpse of what's on there because I was very involved in the 2020 election. We both were. We were very involved in everything going on. We were obviously rooting for President Trump to get reelected. That's a story for another day. But when that came out, I did look into it because, of course, why wouldn't I?
Yes.
I had to see all the information. And I remember immediately saying to her, don't look into that.
Yep.
It is sick.
And in this case, you are my trusted source. I know that
exactly.
And I don't have to.
It's like, I'll bear the nightmares on that one because, trust me, oh, Lord.
Well, and even just a glimpse of the pictures that they're able to show us on news outlets is what's scary, because if that's what they're able to show us, there's so much beyond that. In the realm of, if we published everything that was on there, this would fall under the category of
child pornography.
Which I think we're not supposed to say on YouTube. I think that we probably just got banned for that. But
hey, don't say it. CP.
It's.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure if
adult content
the parental
to
education rights bill in Florida taught us anything, it's that for some reason the hill the Democrats want to die on seems to be protecting that category.
Well, and I mean, we can just go into the idea that we're not allowed to talk about things, and
oh boy,
and free the bee.
Free the bee. Well, okay, before
why the bee ended up getting banned anyways.
Do you want to just go straight to the bee, or do you want to do...
No, this is all under the same category.
It is. That's what I'm saying.
This bee, Leah Thomas.
Okay, go ahead. This is the Breitbart article. I'll let you take it. I don't care. If he can call himself whatever he wants, we can call him whatever we want.
Yes. Well, and this is really, really frustrating from a biological woman's perspective.
Oh, hate speech.
I know. These people, and gender dysphoria is a thing. There's a very small amount of the population, tiny amount, that have issues with their gender. So when I see this becoming a mainstream thing to the point where we need to have a discussion about biological males competing in women's sports, is that people are using a mental illness to get themselves ahead in the world. This is someone taking advantage of people who have real problems. This is like I believe we covered it last week, the amount of teens on TikTok coming out saying that they have multiple personality disorders. That is, as far as the as far as psychologists are concerned,
right?
That's still up for debate whether or not that's a real thing because of how few cases they actually have to study.
It's like you can't really, I mean, you can question the legitimacy of it, but at the same time, acting is a thing.
Yes. And they reviewed all of these TikTok videos of people saying that they had Tourette's. They were saying the exact same word as someone who's more popular and has more followers on TikTok who actually has Tourette's and was diagnosed well before TikTok became a thing.
Yep. And
they're following along. They're using it to grab attention.
Yep. It's a trend.
It is a
trend. That's all it is. And this is the worst of it.
We take that a step further and say, hey, you know what? These scholarships involve money. Oof. Like, these are things that you can make a living off of. This is something that you can go to college on. This is something that you can become, not just, hey, look at me, I'm popular in school, I'm popular in my group. This is something that you can sustain a lifestyle if you build your identity around. The Doge is bringing in all the light. Daisy? The Doge. So then you end up with men in women's sports, and men in the sense that, yes, if you check his DNA, he is a male.
Yes.
And I believe this is the same person that we had talked about, has not had any type of surgery.
Correct.
Does not take any hormone suppressors.
Nope. The homeboy literally grew his hair out. No, wait, no, he did, because you have to, let me see if it's here in the article. He did get to a point where he could. You have to go through a certain period. Oh, I don't think it's in here. He is on something.
Okay.
The important part is he still experienced and went through puberty in its entirety as a male.
Yes. Okay. And so physically he's got an advantage.
Yep.
And anybody who says that he doesn't is an idiot.
All right, I'm going to go check on the pup.
It's someone who just doesn't believe in reality. And having someone who, I don't care if you believe that you're a male or believe that you're a female, there is a way to actually physically test that. So whether you connect with female ideologies, whether you connect with that part of yourself that you believe are female traits or male traits, that's one concept versus the physical defining characteristics of you being a male or a female. I'm not saying that anybody's experience isn't one way or another, but
physically,
mass,
yes.
Physically,
if they dug this individual up 100 years from now and all they had were bones to go on, they would say this is a male.
Yes, not this is a gender confused.
This is a strong and powerful
female,
something else. No.
They would not qualify him as anything except for a male.
But interestingly enough, as the article points out, well, I guess I should say, let's start with the article and then we'll go from there, because the big lead up to this was that basically if you said anything about this, including the other women who on his team were speaking up about being made uncomfortable in the locker rooms because they let this individual go into the locker rooms, and apparently this individual would walk around naked, exposed, flirting, even showing energy reaction, yes. And even though they were uncomfortable with it, it was all swished under the rug. However, we are getting to a point now that this article highlights that shows the backlash is coming.
Well, and Jordan Peterson put it wonderfully when he looked at that reporter and said, "Why are you allowed to offend me?"
Yeah, that was a great interview.
Okay, so Leah Thomas is uncomfortable with being in a male's locker room.
Mm-hmm.
So you allow this person to have their choice, but then the females,
yep.
Some of the other women in the locker room are uncomfortable with this person being there.
Yep.
Why are they not being taken into consideration?
Because they're bigots.
And I love the fact that now, which swimmer was it that put out, hey,
well, this is it. This is the article. So Virginia Tech. Oh, well, I don't know about. Let me someone else. Virginia Tech swimmer Rika. Man, how do you think you do that last name? Gyorgy, maybe. Recently published an open letter accusing.
I don't know, but
it's a close one. Well, how would you do it? Okay, Rekha G. Okay. published an open letter accusing the NCAA of being, quote, disrespectful against the biologically female swimmers for allowing transgender UPenn swimmer Lia Thomas, is it? I don't care, to compete as a woman in college sport. I'm writing this letter right now in hopes that the NCAA will open their eyes and change these rules in the future. It doesn't promote our sport in a good way, and I think it is disrespectful against the biologically female swimmers who are competing in the NCAA. Bravo. Bravo, Miss Ricka G. We'll go with them. Because the big thing leading up to this is this atmosphere of protection and hate speech, and you're not allowed to say it. It is insane that we are applauding this person for saying what is basic information. Basic.
And if you and I had girls in this college, we would be very upset, and we would feel like they needed to be protected if they were to come to me and say, I feel uncomfortable by someone in the locker room. That right there can tell you everything you need to know. If Leah is allowed to feel uncomfortable in the body that they're in, and that is abdicated for, and that is promoted and will make you feel great about yourself, but why does my daughter not have the right to say, I feel uncomfortable with this person around me, and that's not allowed to stand? Biological women need to stand up and say, you know what? Absolutely, you do you. But you know what? Not in my space. Which is exactly what these people have done who believe that they are a male transitioning to a female or a female transitioning to a male. They've said, you know what? I need my own space. Well, as a biological woman, I need my own space, and you need to stay out of it.
Interestingly enough, while you're describing the separate spaces, 100% agree. If the NCAA wanted to create a transgender swimmers division, more power to you. See, that's...
If there's enough support for it, let it happen.
That's thinking logically. Watch out, Doge is coming.
I know.
That is thinking logically, though. That is saying, you know what? They're not the same, and to assert otherwise is just blatantly false. So, the reason we bring this into account here is, as Ms. Monica said, free the bee.
Yes.
Free the bee. What do we mean by free the bee? Well, one of our favorite sites of all time, the Babylon Bee. From the Post-Millennial, free the bee. Babylon Bee refuses to delete Rachel Levine tweet. Truth is not hate speech. Quote, never censor yourself. Insist that 2 and 2 make 4, even if Twitter tries to compel you to say otherwise. Make them ban tens of millions of us, the Babylon Bee, Seth Dillon said. So, if you're not aware, Rachel Levine, an individual, I'm trying to be very, you know what? Oh, I tell you what. I will just go ahead and we'll just read it. We'll get background here in a second. The Babylon Bee did the unthinkable. They told the truth on Twitter, and for that, their Twitter account has been temporarily suspended pending deletion of the offending tweet. The only hitch is that the Babylon Bee won't delete their tweet, and there wasn't anything particularly offensive about it. The offense was referring to a male-bodied person who was born male, lived and worked as a man, then grew long hair and donned women's clothes later in life by way of claiming to be female. A man. The Babylon Bee, Seth Dillon, said that the tweet would not be deleted. Oh, do they not have the original tweet here? Hateful conduct, Twitter rules. Oh, here it is down here. So, the brief article, basically, Rachel Levine, this individual who is transgender, again, look at that face, oof, said, the Babylon Bee tweeted that Rachel Levine was the Babylon Bee's Man of the Year.
Yes, which if Rachel Levine can be the Woman of the
Yes,
Year.
that's the important part there.
Then
Rachel Levine was nominated as Woman of the Year by Time, I believe it was.
which these words mean nothing.
Of course not. It's a circle jerk.
And the Bee is satire.
It's blatant
They
satire.
are absolutely hilarious. And when did we allow ourselves to stop being funny?
So it says, the brief article about the Man of the Year award for Levine noted that Levine would be the Bee's, quote, first annual Man of the Year, noted Levine's accomplishment of having been appointed by the Biden administration, saying that in that role, Levine, quote, serves proudly as the first man in that position to dress like a Western cultural stereotype of a woman. He is also an admiral in the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps. What a boss, the Bee praises, referencing Levine's male birth name, a practice known as dead naming within the trans community. Who says a dude as accomplished as this can't be named Rachel? The Bee writes, this king doesn't care what people think about him. He often wears a dress, which some people think is weird, but he doesn't care one bit. Come on, men in India wear dress-type garments, don't they? The Bee applauded Levine's "Be True to Yourself" message, saying, we couldn't agree more. This man is breaking barriers and showing us all the true meaning of courage. It's beautiful satire. Beautiful satire.
It's beautiful satire,
Yeah.
but here's so people have to stop defining themselves by these traits that they stereotypically think are one or the other, and stop thinking that the majority of us care.
Yep.
I believe under my gender for something, it had options, and
Oh,
it was
God.
male, female, or other,
Other.
and you could describe it in the other, and I
Yep.
said, if you can't tell, I'm not going to. Because I don't care what you think of the way that I dress and the way that I look. There was a Twitter user, and you know how Ben Shapiro does the reaction to liberal TikToks,
Uh-huh.
and this woman goes on, and she is gonna get so mad for me using
Careful.
she.
Careful.
She goes on dressed in what looks like somebody who went through the mission and picked out 1980s and 90s style grunge boy clothing.
Okay.
And says, and she's got her hair cut really short. But the funny part is she's filming in her bedroom, which has like flowers and stuff in the background.
Oh, no.
And she says, what about this outfit makes you think I'm a she? Well, that makes me think that you are a crazy. Like, I don't care if you identify as a male or female, but you have something seriously wrong
Yep.
with the way that you look at yourself if your choices have to be defined how someone else views you.
Mental illness is no joke, people.
Well, I mean, it is
no
kind
joke.
of funny.
It is very
sometimes.
funny. Very funny. I do want to take a moment. Seth Dillon has a pretty good tweet chain here that I would like to read, because it is so spot on to where we should be versus where we are. He says, we're not deleting anything. Truth is not hate speech. If the cost of telling the truth is the loss of our Twitter account, then so be it. He says, I've received some messages from people asking how they can help. And then he talks about never censoring yourself, getting on an email list, and all that good stuff. But that's the most important thing. Truth is not hate speech. Hate speech is nothing more than a little safety blanket that you pull up over yourself to make, that just to reassure yourself that, oh, it's not so bad out there. Speech is what it is. There's no such thing as hate speech. If somebody shows you their true colors, you should thank them, because now you know.
Yes.
I mean, that's all it is. You want to sugarcoat it, you are more than welcome. Although I'm going to scroll down to this Jim Banks tweet. Because, of course, the original tweet, it was an honor to witness Admiral Levine's historic appointment as the first female 4-star officer to serve in the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps. Jim Banks says, calling someone that was born and lived as a man for 54 years the first female 4-star officer is an insult to every little girl who dreams of breaking glass ceilings one day. And I mean, we can joke as much as we want about this. We can talk about how ridiculous it is, and how I could even reference 1984 and talk about the party telling you to ignore the evidence your eyes and ears give you. But at the end of the day, mental illness is no joke. And if you take this away from someone, just like Leah Thomas, that article, that the person who wrote that letter, that woman got 17th place, which means because of a man in first place, she did not make top 16. So joke as much as we want about this, and it is quite funny, so we will. There are victims. There are casualties to this. And now someone who did work their whole life, who did abide by the system, and could be the potential first female 4-star officer, is unfortunately going to be overshadowed by this individual, who I'm going to say right now, alongside Governor Tom Wolf, did kill thousands of senior people in the beginning of COVID-19. Look into that crap.
Well, okay, let's
no,
steer away from
no.
that and bring it back to the fact that we feel the need as a society to gauge and to look at this and be like, there's a glass ceiling, break it. There's a glass ceiling, break it. We have to stop identifying that way. We have to stop trying to fit people into categories based on age, sex, religion, all of these different things that make us up who we are, and look at their behaviors. Is the person qualified to do the job that we are asking them to do?
Yes.
And is it in line with what we're wanting to get the end results from?
You're talking about vetting people based on
Oh
experience?
my gosh, I know. It is a brand new concept that I just came up with. I don't think anybody's ever heard of it before. Looking at someone and
not
their
just
job
checking
that they
boxes off?
accomplish.
Wow.
Yes. And you know what? I wouldn't even need to know their sex. I wouldn't even need to know their demographic. I wouldn't even need to know what they identify as.
Yep. It's weird how that is
their
now
pronouns.
more important than job experience.
Yes, and I believe pronouns are listed above job experience on LinkedIn now.
Oh my goodness, that is annoying. But
Yes.
that's the life that they want, and you know what? I don't. Although, on the topic of vetting,
And just so you know, I identify as a person who views people as either a she or he based on my impression of them.
I would 100% agree. I identify as someone who follows the science. Whoa, no! I've crossed beams! I don't know what to say anymore!
Don't do it.
Well, interestingly enough, I was going to go into, speaking of vetting, I was going to go into and talk about the new SCOTUS nominee.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think we should go into this one tomorrow. I think I do just want to hop straight to our local story because, well, our lovely pup needs to go potty.
Let's give the Supreme Court nominee a little bit of time to see what comes out of some of these hearings, because I am very interested to see what kind of interview process she goes through.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell has been quoted as saying, God, he's useless. He's been quoted as saying that he's withholding his judgment until obviously he hears from what this individual has to say. He has seen the concerning information regarding how soft she is on crime, especially a certain underage topic that for some reason the Democrats are all about these days. Yes. But he is not going to treat her like the Democrats treated Trump's nominees, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. But the reason I am, like you said, we're going to watch this one. We'll probably talk about this one more tomorrow after we have a little bit more about it. So then... I'm going to hop over that. Okay. Which brings us to a local situation here in Michigan with our governor.
So this was popped up on my
this one was from Miss Monica
this morning. Ohio Lieutenant Governor blasts Michigan Governor Whitmer for unreasonable, irresponsible effort to shut down the oil pipeline through Michigan. And a lot of people don't know that there is a large oil pipeline that goes through Michigan that runs essentially from Canada through the Great Lakes, right? Wisconsin and into Ohio, and feeds into some refineries and that type of stuff. So this is classic Governor Whitmer. Not something that popped up right away. It was something that we actually had to kind of search for, and there's not a lot of coverage on it, even though it's probably been discussed for a while now, ever since Biden shut down the Keystone pipeline.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, of course, Whitmer wants to get on board with, let's shut down all the pipelines. These are dangerous, and
she's useless.
And to an extent, I understand if something... So let's read a little background. Whitmer, a Democrat, contends that Enbridge Energy's Line 5 poses a risk of catastrophic oil spill in the Great Lakes. She and Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel have launched legal challenges to close the pipeline built in 1953 that moves oil through northern Wisconsin and Michigan to refineries in Ontario.
Yeah, so this one connects to Canada.
Yeah, so northern Wisconsin, Michigan... There's a lot of different government agencies at play here, like you're talking about Ohio and how this affects things. And obviously there's a lease on pipelines built in 1953. Okay, there might be some technological advances that we could put in place or replacements that we can do to make this pipeline safer.
Sure.
Obviously.
I mean, infrastructure should always be at the top of our list. Yeah, you would think.
Number one, built in 1953, why haven't we addressed the safety issues until now? Until everybody wants to push for go green and gas is $4 a gallon.
Yep.
Which I did not think that we would see again in our lifetime. I really thought that we would continue to move forward, which is really sad to see gas prices go up.
Yep.
People around us suffering. And now our governor wants to shut down.
I didn't vote for her. Interestingly enough, though...
Neither of us did. We weren't here.
True.
Unless you count whoever voted for us when
using
our Jackson
I was going to say,
identities.
technically we did vote here. That's an interesting thing we can know about. That's a story for another day. Mm-hmm. So, from the Republican... the Republican governor of Ohio, of course, said that Whitmer's actions threaten Ohio's economy and could deliver more pain at the gas pump. He says, quote, with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, I think the world is learning right now that we can't be dependent on other nations for the supply of our oil and gas who are adversarial to us. We can work with nations who are allies, in this case, Canada and Line 5, but Michigan is being unreasonable and irresponsible with their actions. So, Ms. Monica sent this over to me, and I was looking through it, and I was like, Attorney General Dana Nessel, where do I know that name from? And why does it seem familiar that they're claiming something is an environmental cause, but it is actually negatively impacting the people? And I did a quick little search, and it brought up this. Michigan regulators moved fast on dangerous dam to protect mussels. I'm going to get a little bit of background here. Let's read this a little bit. So, for decades, federal regulators demanded changes to the design of the Edenville Dam to make it more likely to withstand heavy rains and avoid flooding. So when Michigan regulators assumed oversight of the dam in late 2018 after its owners lost their federal license to generate energy, they took action to protect mussels. 3 weeks before the 96-year-old dam failed this week amid heavy rains and caused the worst flood in Midland history, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, there it is, sued its owner, alleging it illegally lowered Wixom Lake in 2018 and 19, killing, quote, thousands, if not millions, of freshwater mussels. What are anyone thinking of mussels? Defendants wrongfully exerted dominion over the freshwater mussels and caused their death, which denies and is inconsistent with the state's right to them. Man, these poor mussels. Now, interestingly enough, of course, the result of this was a massive flood.
Well,
massive flood.
Residents impacted by the massive flood say they are dumbfounded by the state's priorities, especially since federal regulators had warned since at least 1993 the dam failed to meet safety requirements.
This is what happens when they claim they're going after an environmentally safe cause while completely overlooking what should be addressed.
Yes.
We had the worst flood, and now we drive over these bridges, and where we once used to see beautiful lakes, and we know people who live on these lakes, what do we see?
Oh my gosh. So
it's creepy.
And you grew up in the southern part of the state, and I grew up in mid-Michigan, and these are areas where I remember as far back as I can remember driving over certain bridges and seeing the lakes and boats, and especially in the summertime, like where we'd have fireworks and where a lot of friends grew up, and boating in these areas. And even going out to my mother's house now and my sister's lake house, where the water levels are far below where they were previously, and to the point where you can't have your boat out on the lake. And people might go, oh, well, that's an inconvenience versus the safety of a species.
Of a species of
It is
mussel.
Also how this area of Michigan makes a lot of its money.
Yep.
You know, when you're talking the amount of tourists, granted, because we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, we refer to them as citiots.
Citiots. I mean, that's fair.
That's fair. Who come up in the summertime
trunk
to
slammers.
Relax. The trunk slammers who don't live up here, but either own property up here or rent property up here. You have a lot of people who own property in the area who will rent it out. You know, you have a lot of campgrounds, a lot of RV parks, a lot of places that are making the majority of their money during the summer based off of this.
Yep.
We have a marina down the road that's looking at closing because it's connected to this dam system. Well, that's their money. That's all of the people who are employed there. That's their income to live in this area, you know, to sustain themselves. And now we're looking at the same thing with the oil pipeline. They're claiming that it's not safe. Okay. Understand that, yes, it might not be safe, so let's build an alternative before we shut this down.
Or just actually do inspections and say things. Don't just say, no, I'm shutting it down because it might not be safe.
There can't be a way for us to fix this before we just go, nope, we're just going to completely shut it down.
Well, that's just it, man. You throw some kind of environmentally whatever cause in front of them, and they immediately just lose their minds over it. Oh, my God, we got to shut this down. Yeah, 10,000 people, 10,000 residents were evacuated, and you can see the impact of it. It was borderline catastrophic. So it really just shows the mindset of these people. And you know what? Now that we are here, we are going to do everything in our power to get rid of Whitmer. But I feel it's a sentiment across the state. So we'll see how legitimate the next election is. But we are going to work to get rid of these people. And that's what you have to do. But you have to start from the bottom up.
Well, and if you go back towards the go back to the article about the pipeline, it says closures would mean refineries in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Ontario, and Quebec would lose about 45% of their crude oil input, reducing their ability to maintain current production levels. And drivers in that region will pay at least $4.7 billion more each year for gasoline and diesel fuel, according to the study by CEA, a business, energy supplier, and consumer group. So we're already in an area that's strapped.
Yep.
The whole United States right now.
Yep, we're all feeling it.
The inflation is feeling the crunch. And the person that we decided to put in charge of this is saying, I'm going to squeeze even more out of you.
No kidding. Just refuses to.
That is not okay. And find an alternative answer before you shut something down.
Yep. And you know what? We're going to end on this quote that I saw in that same article. It was from, what was his name? Husted. But where's his first name? Sorry, it's... Okay, well, anyways, this is an individual. I can't find his first name. So he says, you see the consequence of higher fuel prices on public opinion and on the lives of working-class Americans. In this case, it's being caused by Vladimir Putin, but it could easily be caused by Governor Whitmer in the future for the people that are served by this pipeline if they don't find the alternative. This is the problem here. You can, Joe Biden and anyone who wants to try to blame Putin for all the problems in the world can, but these problems on our home front are what need to be addressed, and they've already caused massive impact on people's lives. They're only making it worse. So the only thing we can really do is get rid of these people and fix these problems.
Yes.
All right. Well, my throat is officially ash. I hope by tomorrow I'm feeling a little better, but great show. Anything else you'd like to say before we go, my love?
I just want to make sure that I remind everybody out there, if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. We are now up and running on Spotify.
Yep.
We're on Rumble and we're on YouTube. We'll continue to expand, and hopefully once I learn a little bit more about the back end of the website, I'll have everything up and running, and we'll connect with some local businesses. I can't wait to see and hear from all of our local supporters and how everybody likes the show. And if you have a comment, go ahead
feel
and leave
free.
it below.
Feel free. All right. Well, that is all for us. Stay safe out there. We'll see everybody tomorrow.